Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are delighted to have special guests for our session. Jennifer Hill is from Kalibri Labs. Of course, you know me. I'm Sean Tibbetts, Senior Director of Education here. And we're delighted to have Jennifer and her team at Kalibri join us for some certification programs that we'll be launching. And this is an introduction to the Hummingbird Commercial platform. So Jennifer, take it away.
Awesome, Sean. Thank you so much for your warm welcome. Thank you to the AAHOA team and to the AAHOA board for getting us on our way. So we are excited to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining part one of our AAHOA and Kalibri partnership webinar series. We're going to host two more and certainly attend one or all of them. So as Sean mentioned, I'm Jennifer Hill. And over the next 45 minutes, we're going to look at how owners can use performance data to find their most profitable business and protect asset value. So we are going to be focused today on Hummingbird Commercial. I'm going to do a little bit of setting the stage. This QR code is going to go to our AAHOA page on our website. So if you are interested in learning more, you can scan that. And of course, we will share more information for you. And as Sean mentioned, please use that Q&A feature or in the chat to the host and panelists. We'd love to answer your questions. And I know Sean and Mike will be keeping a good eye on those for me, so I make sure that I answer them in a timely fashion for you. So before we get into the tools, let's look at what the data is telling us today. So this is data that we update every week. This is through October 25th. So we're looking at total US room demand, and what we see, the big takeaway here, is that room demand is flat compared to 2024. So corporate, government, group, those segments are all down. The only segment still growing is OTA. And we see that big jump for the next 30 days on the books as of October 24th. So just leading up to Thanksgiving is that 30-day window that's highlighted there by that big jump in OTA business on the books. You can also see that year to date, OTA is up just about 1%. And then promotion or loyalty member rates are up 10% year to date. And rack bar has been fluctuating. So really where we're finding any demand changes is in that transient business, right? So when we look at this across the US, we track 334 markets, 975 submarkets. Half of all markets are flat or negative in year-over-year growth. So that means the only way to improve your bottom line right now isn't to wait for the demand to return. It's to find the most profitable mix of the demand that already exists, right? So if we go back here, we see total US performance. There is a lot of decline, especially in government and corporate, unfortunately also starting to impact group, but there still are people traveling, booking through more expensive channels. So what we're hoping to help you do is improve profitability. So revenue growth is flat. We all know costs aren't. Profit is what's left and it's shrinking. So this says it all. Revenue growth has plateaued, costs haven't. And we want to help you protect your asset value by focusing on profitability and not just occupancy or rate. That's exactly what this AAHOA partnership is built for. This is going to help you keep more of what guests already pay. We want to give owners profit-first training and tools, not just revenue metrics, comparing your performance to the average performance of your competitors. And I read a quote in one of the most recent today's hotelier articles from the AAHOA leadership team. Owners must arm themselves with data to make smarter, faster decisions in a changing market. And that's exactly what we're here to do today. I'm excited to open this partnership with AAHOA and share with you member benefits. So specifically for the tool that we are going to be focused on today, Hummingbird Commercial, AAHOA members are eligible for a 5% discount for a 12-month subscription, a 10% discount if you sign a 2-year agreement for Hummingbird Commercial. And then starting today through November 14th, if you subscribe using your member benefit with Kalibri, you're going to receive 14 months for the price of 12. So it's a great opportunity to get started using the tools that are available to you today to make sure that you're not losing any more profit. Another member benefit that we're going to talk a lot more about next week, but I'll share with you, it is upcoming, launching November 6th, is our combined partnership certified hotel profit strategist program. This is going to be fully online, fully self-paced. And then early next year, we're going to launch a partnership certified hotel profit analyst program. So we're excited for that to roll out. Those will be designed or are designed specifically to make profit strategy part of your toolkit each and every day, whether it's at that analyst level for folks who are just coming into the industry, or whether it's for someone who has a lot more experience and is really thinking at that strategist level. So when we're looking at challenges for the industry, again, I'm not going to be able to tell you anything that you don't already know or aren't already experiencing. But what we view is a triple threat is access to customers, an evolving and ever-changing loyalty landscape, and then profitability, which is really where we can focus in and help support you in improving your performance and asset value. So when we're looking at this, we want to be thinking about what the top level problem is. And the simple math is that we are experiencing muted revenue growth. We're essentially flat. There are some markets that are experiencing a little bit of growth, maybe up to 3%. But we consistently are experiencing spikes in expenses. We know the battle that is happening in LA right now. So when we look to the future, trying to figure out what that's going to look like for labor costs. So it forces all of you and us to reimagine how we're running our hotels and how we're getting our customers. So we can't control interest rates. There's not a ton we can do about insurance or property taxes, but we can control how we're bringing business in the door. And that's what Hummingbird helps us focus on, so that when we're fighting that struggle to keep profits improving and our asset value growing and ensuring that we're continuing to build that wealth for future generations, we need the data to make us successful. And legacy benchmarking is simplistic. It's not as helpful as we need it to be when we're thinking about overall profitability and business mix. So where we can focus your attention is on cost of customer acquisition and understanding where that profitable mix is. So how we do that, we have a proprietary database of over 35,000 hotels. We collect data at a super granular level, something like 87 fields of data that we're collecting. And we use that to bring insights into your hotel performance, your competitors' performance, your submarket and market. So as I said, we have 975 submarkets, so really broken down by geography based on supply, and 334 markets. One of the other major differentiators for our program versus any others, so we're also collecting cost of acquisition data. And across the US, right now, hotels are spending 20 to 30 cents of every dollar guests pay just to bring that guest in the door. That's one of the largest controllable expenses that you have. And it's one that Hummingbird Commercial can help you reduce or make more efficient. So we are tracking those costs of acquisition, but we're also using them to calculate different types of revenue to help us better understand the impact of those rising acquisition costs on our hotel's business. So we're tracking hotel collected revenue. This is going to be the most familiar metric to you. This is a legacy metric. This is what is tracked on your own financial statements, on your P&L. This is what's going to be reported in STAR reports. We use that as a baseline, and then we take those costs of acquisition that we have and we gross it up. So we're adding back those OTA margins and markups or wholesale margins, and we're calculating guest paid revenue. Guest paid revenue is as straightforward as it sounds. This is what the guest is paying to stay in the hotel, whether it is directly to the hotel or through a third party. So to do a really quick example here, let's imagine that you're charging $100 on a Sunday night in December, and the guest books through Hilton.com. They're going to pay $100. The hotel is going to collect $100 minus a couple of transaction fees for the channel cost, right? To get that from brand.com to your property management system. If the guest pays that same $100 on Expedia and they pay Expedia and then Expedia pays you, Expedia is going to take their commission, their 15%, let's call it, off the top. So the guest has now paid $100, the hotel is collecting $85, and we still have some other costs to worry about, right? So guest paid revenue is what the guest is paying to stay in the hotel, whether it is directly to the hotel or through a third party. Once we deduct all the costs of acquisition, we are calculating a type of net revenue metric called COPE revenue. COPE is an acronym. It stands for Contribution to Operating Profit and Expense. And I like to think of this really simply as what we're keeping from what the guest has paid, or what we're sending along to the bottom line to help cover those operational costs. So if we still take that $100, we're paying $15 to Expedia or any OTA, and then we are working with $85, but let's then also say that we have certain amenities we have to present to that guest. We also have transaction fees from point of sale to property management system. So maybe by the time they're checking in, we're working with $75, right? There is an opportunity to flex our business mix and create a more profitable business mix. And this is how we're able to show you that in Hummingbird Commercial, by breaking this down. And certainly last but not least, one of the other types of revenue that we look at is called, very simply, net revenue. And this is, we're taking and deducting the sales and marketing expenses from COPE revenue. So we're really looking at the full picture of what it costs you to acquire your guests, because you are, of course, making investments in sales and marketing. So we're tracking these 4 types of revenue. And in Hummingbird Commercial, once we get there today, I'll show you what this looks like live. We focus on COPE revenue, hotel collected revenue, and guest paid revenue. But what it looks like across the US is declining revenue capture, challenges profits, and asset value. And it's important for me to read that word for word, because it is really critical to understand that this isn't just a one market or sub-market issue. It isn't just one struggling hotel. The US is facing this as a whole. And of course, with the size and scope of your membership and the impact that you have on the industry as owners, this is really something that we can all affect. And that is why we wanted to partner together to help you be more profitable, make more money, improve your asset value, and also support the health of the industry so it continues being a good investment for us. So when we look at full year 2024, revenue capture was 80.7%. So essentially what we kept of what the guest paid. That is down 0.71%. So that means we lost $1.5 billion in revenue capture last year for the full year. And what that equates to is almost a $19 billion reduction in US hotel asset value. So even though 0.71 seems nominal, when we're looking at the scope of the impact of that, it's almost a $19 billion reduction in US hotel asset value. So even as RevPAR rises, hotels are keeping less. We're looking on the left side here to see hotel collected RevPAR increasing from 2015 to 2019. It increased every single year. Everybody was thrilled. We loved it. This is pre-pandemic, because we want to look at how hotel collected RevPAR was increasing on the left, and we are all celebrating, fat and happy, super excited. Meanwhile, because we weren't considering the cost of acquisition for that business, the revenue capture percentage actually was declining. It was 83.6% in 2019. So then if we look at the post-pandemic years, we have positive growth continuing in hotel collected RevPAR, driven a lot by ADR in most markets and submarkets. Yet our revenue capture percentage continued to decline. So again, last year having that impact of almost $19 billion in lost asset value. As we think about what it is that we can do to support you, how you can support your hotels and your portfolio of hotels with more profitable business mix, one of the things that we've been floating around lately is a little bit of a catchphrase is, revenue is vanity. We're looking at profit to keep us sane, keep us rolling. But at the end of the day, cash flow is reality. So we have put together an example of what it looked like almost 6 years ago to buy a hotel, or 6 years ago in 2019, versus what it looks like today. So it's important to note this is real. These are examples, but it is based on real case studies that we've done. So in 2019, super quickly, paying $10 million for an asset. Great. Going to look at an 8 cap, just kind of on average, just to use this as an example, means it's throwing off $800,000 in cash flow. We're going to take a 65% loan. We're going to pick that up at 4.5%, so $6.5 million at 4.5% in 2019. We, as a buyer, in 2019, we dropped in $3.5 million. Our debt service is going to be $300,000. And that's a great spread, right? $800,000 minus our debt service, $500,000. Awesome. $3.5 million in equity. That return in 2019, 14% in this example. Let's fast forward to 2025. We're going to pay that same $10 million for our asset. For us now, that 8 cap means that it's still throwing off $800,000 in cash flow, but the rest of the economics have changed here. So we're probably going to be able to secure a 60% loan, and we're going to need to pay 7% for that. So now we're putting in $4 million in equity. Our debt service is increasing from $300,000 to $420,000. The spread shrinks. So at $380,000, that would mean a 9.5% return on our $4 million investment. But as you all know, expenses have spiked. So when we look at examples and we're saying, okay, we're going to take higher renovation reserves out, insurance has skyrocketed, property taxes increased across the board, labor is up probably even more than 5.5% for you. And then cost of acquisition has continued to grow. We're down from 500 in 2019 to 380 in 2025, and now we're talking about 270,000. So that's an additional cost. So we're down to 110,000. I apologize. And when we're looking at that $4 million investment, the return is 2.75. Right? So this isn't to scare you away from investing in hotels. We want to help you recover cost of acquisition where we're able to, right? There is demand flowing into your market that is more profitable. So when we're really focused on the real numbers that we're seeing today, which unfortunately are on the screen, we know that you're under a ton of pressure. So unless you're tracking profit, not just revenue, you're not going to be able to see where that leak is. The good news is we're not powerless. We can harness the power of data and technology so that we can stop sacrificing profit for top line revenue. We're going to be focused on our Hummingbird Commercial module today. Next week, we're going to focus on our Hummingbird Market tool as well as our certification, so that as we work together, we're able to provide you guidance on the best way to spend your time and your investment that results in the most profit and the highest asset value. And we do that through a number of ways. Again, Hummingbird Commercial being really the primary one and the one that we're going to focus on today. So Hummingbird Commercial is a software as a service. So it is a tool that's fully available online through any device. It's going to help you execute on commercial strategy, no matter how big your team is. And I think that's really important to emphasize. This is something that anyone can use, and it's something that any one team can use, whether that's 1 person, 5 people, or 10 people. It will do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the analysis for you. So we'll calculate your profit mix, identify incremental opportunities the team can go after. We're going to show you your true competitors based on demand patterns. And we're going to help you understand if there are any untapped opportunities out there, right? And this is going to be regardless of the channel that they're coming through. So I'm going to show you a few more slides before we get live into the platform, but do know that that's coming. We have 6 modules in the platform. So summary view, optimization view, third-party view, on the book signals, property view. And while this is marked as coming soon, it's more of a placeholder because we continue to add enhancements and features. But today, the 6th module is an executive view module, which is perfect for you if you own 2 or more hotels. You're going to be able to see all of their performance right on one screen in executive view. So before we dive into the platform, let's talk a little bit about the comp set problem, right? In a traditional comp set, you're looking at hotels maybe you considered 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when you got the initial loan, you bought the hotel, you set up your star report for the first time. And we really tend to be subjective around those hotel selections. We're going to look at hotels that are close to us, that have a similar service level, and are similar chain class or brand. Unfortunately, guests are not going to have as much information as we do about the differences in brand. They're really heavily focused on geography. So one of the ways that we've tried to solve for this in the past is create a primary benchmark and then a secondary benchmark, maybe even a third or fourth, or I've worked with hotels with 5 benchmarks. And all of the reasons we set those up is because we know we're not looking at the full view of competition. And in order to receive aggregated benchmarking, we have to meet certain competitive rules. This is a limited way of looking at competition. The number one byproduct of our profit mix calculation for your hotel is to tell you who you compete with, for which types of business, and when, based on actual market share opportunity. So the model in this case is going to look at your hotel, and it's going to compare it to up to 100 of your hotel's closest competitors. So it's going to quickly establish a view of the market that you can't do just by looking at 5 or 6 hotels in a star report, or even looking at other demand-based reporting, because it's looking at everything. If you take Washington, D.C. as an example, anywhere between 60 miles north and 60 miles south is considered the Washington, D.C. market and a lot of our competitors. But we're going to look at the hotels that are specific to you and establish that true picture of demand and what is realistically available to your hotel. So you can say to your team operating the hotel, I know that there is more corporate weekday business out there. I know that there's more AAA business out there. And here are the hotels that are getting it. And here's the data that supports it, right? So one of the great byproducts of our profit mix algorithm is to understand who you're competing with, on which days of the week, and what type of business you're competing with those hotels for, down to the room night level revenue, ADR on a by day basis. So we can really get into the weeds. And that's something that as we start your subscriptions and you become partners of ours, we definitely will walk you through. We have a great team of account managers who have previously been in hotels, so they understand the business, maybe not from the ownership perspective directly, but they certainly know whether it's a general manager or sales manager or revenue manager, what that is like on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to walk everybody with access to the tool through how we calculate profit mix so that we can help you unlock that additional opportunity and profit opportunity. So we calculate your profit mix by first identifying those competitors by segment, right? So this is going to be machine learning, AI algorithm that is doing all of this heavy lifting for us when it comes to the analysis. And then the output is going to tell us who we're competing with and when and for what type of business. And then it's also going to tell us when that business is available so that as we deploy additional resources, whether that's time, whether it's your team's focus and attention, whether it's actual marketing dollars, you'll know that you're making an investment where it matters most. Okay. So let's dive into Hummingbird Commercial. I'm going to take just a moment to stop sharing my screen and reshare the platform. I don't see any questions or anything in the chat.
You're correct. I just wanted to give just a quick reminder that the question and answer box is open. If you do have questions, feel free to type into the Q&A box. If you're unable to locate on the Zoom, if you're able to locate that on the Zoom toolbar, you can also just type into the chat field, and I'm monitoring that as we go on. Jennifer, great presentation so far. I'm excited to see the platform.
Awesome, Sean. Thank you for keeping us in line and structured. Definitely encourage those questions. Hopefully you'll have some as you see the platform in real time here. So let me just make this a little bit bigger for us and share with you that this is real hotel data. And I do want to highlight that for you. We have anonymized it. So this Blackbird Downtown Hotel, which is going to be our primary example today, this is a real hotel that is operating in the US today. We just have changed its name to protect the innocent or the guilty, depending on what you see here. But overall, this hotel performs pretty well. So when you log into Hummingbird Commercial, you'll see down the left-hand menu here, all of your options for those modules. So again, executive view, property view, optimization view. We're going to start here on summary view. I'm going to give you a room tour, so to speak. And I have turned my camera off in case you're wondering where I went, just so you can focus on the platform here. So we're going to look at our Blackbird Downtown. And the date range that we can select, this is always going to default to the most recent week. Our data does update on Tuesdays. So you'll see that this data is last actualized through October 26th, which is just this past Sunday. And we can change this to a trailing 3-month view, trailing 6, trailing 12, year to date. You can put in any combination of days in order to see that performance. So let's take a look just at your trailing 3. Let's look at Blackbird Downtown. We're going to be able to select our comp set. So we call them benchmarks, but you will be able to self-select your competitors, just as you're able to with Star or Amadeus Hospitality, up to 3 self-selected comp sets per subscription. And then we also have some target comp sets or benchmarks here that are based on that profit mix algorithm. So the hotels that you are specifically competing with for corporate or business transient, hotels that you're specifically competing with for rack bar. So when you make an investment in those opportunities, you can understand how much of that business you have actually shifted away from your comp set. You'll also see here the ability to compare your hotel's performance versus the larger geographical market limited to chain class competitors. So if this is an upscale property, this is going to be a broader geographical area, but only other upscale hotels. And then submarket is going to be a limited group of all hotels based on zip code. So we'll get into this a little bit more specifically, and it always makes more sense when you're looking at your own hotels. But these are really great comparison options too. And as I mentioned, we do default to our COPE revenue type, so contribution to operating profit and expense. And again, this is what you are keeping from what the guest has paid. And you can also see hotel collected. You want to tie back the results in Hummingbird Commercial to your P&L and guest paid. So guest paid is super powerful when we're thinking about how much guests are paying when you're negotiating for corporate or business transient rates, or when you're just understanding price sensitivity. Maybe you're thinking ahead already to next June and you're in an area of the country that will be impacted by World Cup matches. Guest paid is a great opportunity to understand price sensitivity. When we look at summary view, this is intended to be just that, a summary. So for you as an owner, super busy, running more than one venture at a time in most cases, whether that's multiple hotels or you have other businesses that you're focused on. So summary view is designed really with you in mind, but if you are more involved in the day-to-day operation, you can go into the detail of that as well. So we have a data ribbon up top that's going to show us our overall performance for the time range selected. So this percent to profit mix is our calculation of how well that hotel is doing versus its most profitable business mix. Then we have RevPAR, occupancy, ADR, and a loyalty index, which is going to measure how many of our guests have a loyalty membership number attached to their reservation versus our selected comparison, which in this case is our primary benchmark or comp set. And I guess it got tired of me being logged in, so let me get logged back in here. Sorry for that. Got kicked out. Just bear with me for a moment.
And while Jennifer's doing that, folks, I'm going to go ahead and put the sessions for the next two of our partnership learnings with Kalibri. They'll be happening next week on Tuesday and Thursday, and I've gone ahead and copied the links as well. So I'm going to go ahead and place that into the chat box. If you're not able to copy the chat box, or if you would like, please feel free to email, and I will provide my email at the end of today's session. It's very easy. It's my first name, Sean, at AAHOA.com. But I'm going to go ahead and plug those two URLs with the dates next to them into the chat. So if you want to register for the session on November 4th or November 6th, we do highly recommend that you attend all three, although it is not necessary to attend one to understand the others. So please let your friends know, let those in the community, the AAHOA community know. We definitely want to take advantage of these incredible tools that are offered, and then look across those certifications as they come out this year and next year. Back to you, Jennifer.
Sean, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So as we get into the platform even further, we see a ton of detailed information. So we get into our RevPAR performance. This is by month. We can certainly limit our date range here to be by week or by day. So you see a smaller period of time, occupancy and ADR breakdown. And then really where I like to scroll almost immediately when I'm logging in and have chosen my date range for the summary view is down here where we're going to see our top 3 opportunities as defined by that profit mix algorithm. So we're able to see our loyalty member rate, net OTA, and rack bar. Not surprisingly, these are transient types of business. That is what we saw at the top of the call, right? Overall US performance year to date through October 25th, almost all leisure business if we're seeing any growth at all. So loyalty member rate, these are guests who are logged into their loyalty membership program and are getting points for their stay. These are not redemptions. They're receiving that loyalty member discount. Net OTA, these are guests who are paying the OTA in advance. You're collecting a net rate. And one of the biggest misconceptions I think about working with Kalibri is that we demonize OTA business and we say it's bad, don't take it. There are a lot of times when this business still is going to be the most profitable business, especially if it's only transient business coming into your market. So that's something to really highlight and understand, that OTA business is not universally bad. We don't believe that. We don't share that. There are going to be times in certain markets, certain seasons, where this is profitable business. In this case, it is. And then rec bar is your traditional retail business. So again, all leisure-driven business is our top 3 opportunities, really aligning well with those US trends we saw earlier. So I'm going to change this back to just October, and I'm going to show 10/1 through 10/31 and take a look at this full year. So, or full month rather. So for everything from yesterday, the 27th through Friday is going to be our forecast for your hotel. So that's another great benefit of working with Kalibri, is that we're forecasting for every hotel in the database every day of the year, by channel, by rate category. So really super specific. So when we're looking to see, okay, when Friday at 11:59 p.m. rolls around, we're all finishing up the work week. If you're celebrating Halloween, get the kids to bed, all the candy hidden away, you're going to be able to see where you're finishing the month. So that it will be actualized through the 26th and our forecast through the 31st. This executive view module is going to show you, again, a high level overview of your portfolio's performance. So in this case, congratulations, we all own these hotels today. So here's our Blackbird downtown that we were looking at individually in the summary view, but we can see all of our other hotels as well. This is intended to be a 30,000 foot view. We're just looking at where we are participating or where we are performing across the board. And if we want to go into a specific hotel, we can click on this hyperlink or go into property view and select it. I do see that there is a question.
So Jen, somebody raised their hand, but I did not see a question go into the chat field,
Okay.
the question and answer box. If they are unable to recognize those two tools, maybe they're on their phone or tablet. If you re-raise your hand at the end of class, we can open your microphone up for you. But if you can locate the question and answer box or the chat box, you can send that message directly to us, and we are more than happy to answer that.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah. All right, so let's look at property view. And again, this is always going to be more meaningful with your hotel's data. So if you are interested in starting with one property and doing a deep dive, I personally would go through and do that analysis with you. So as we get to near the end of our time together, I will share my email address and some other contact information so you can reach out. But I do want to highlight for you what's available in Property View. Property View is going to summarize your hotel's performance. This is a really great place to start. This is also a great place for operations leaders, owners, really everyone, but specifically if you're thinking about, okay, how could my GM use this? We definitely point you first to Property View because it's very similar to the data you receive in a STAR report. Okay. So here we have two date ranges. You may notice that. So you can select second date range. This is going to default to the prior year. And it doesn't default immediately to 10/1 to 10/31/2024 because it's doing day of week comparison. So October 1st was a Wednesday this year. October 2nd was a Wednesday last year. So because day of week patterns matter so much, it does default to that. But if you want a true month over month, year over year, you can adjust this. Super easy. When we get into Property View, you can see that there are additional filters we can add here. You can get as granular as you want. So we track 20 rate categories, 8 channels, loyalty, lead time. And one of my favorites to highlight is length of stay. So if you have a purpose-built extended stay property, let's say it's an extended stay America, or it's a WoodSpring Suites, it's a Residence Inn, it's a Homewood Suites. This is a great tool to use to identify those other tiers for length of stay. So it's a tier 2, tier 3, or tier 4, that 30 plus, so that you're really focusing in on successfully fulfilling that business model for an extended stay hotel. In the summary tab, again, quick snapshot. So any filter you apply is going to update these numbers to reflect those filters. So we have RevPAR, ADR, occupancy, that cost per room night. I do want to highlight, and we're always happy to share this with you, cost per room night here is not your cost per occupied room. This is the guest acquisition cost. We also have that loyalty percentage, revenue, and room nights versus our selected comparison, which in this case is our primary benchmark, as well as the index and the ranking. At every level of detail, there's both the table and the graph. And in the interest of time today, I'm not going to show you every single option of those, but I do want to just highlight for you before I start clicking a little bit faster how to read and interpret the tables and graphs that you're seeing. So to do that, we can go to our Trends tab. And the important thing to remember is that our data, so again, congratulations, we all own the Blackbird Downtown Hotel. Our data for October 2025 is represented in the black here. It's the data bar on the left. And our selected comparison, which is our primary benchmark or comp set, is the orange or the data bar on the right. So that's going to follow through across all charts and tables in the platform. So you can visually see your performance versus your comp set, or you're able to grab it in a table. We break down rate category and channel. tremendous amount of detail here, really great information. If you have been working with your brand reps to really drive brand.com performance, as this hotel might have been, you can see this big gap of occupancy contribution through brand.com to our hotel, Blackbird Downtown, 28.3% versus the comp set's 20.4%. We also are experiencing a nice lift in group and a decline in OTA. So we're moving from more expensive channels to less expensive business mix here, brand.com and group. And while this is a demo hotel, it is anonymous, it is a client of ours. So this is a great example of how when you're using our data and you're working with the tool effectively, you can make a big impact on your overall profit. So optimization view is home to our profit mix algorithm. This is where a lot of that detail will come to life. So we understand what opportunities exist and in which months, through which channels, through which days of the week. There definitely are whole training sessions that we do to support those people who will be using this part of the tool. But I wanted to highlight it just briefly for you here. OTB signals is our true on the books picture. So this is going to show us what we have on the books. We're going to have a visual position versus our submarket for all of the days in the future. This isn't based on our forecast where we're going to end up on these days in the future, but what we actually have, excuse me, on the books. So this is another great tool we introduced at the beginning of 2025. And it is also important to note that anytime we're introducing new features or functionality like this, like OTB signals, if you are already a subscriber, you will get this for no additional fee. We don't add cost to improve our tool. Third-party view is home to account insights and agency insight. So imagine, that our sales team is using this. Maybe we have a portfolio sales team. So we're going to want to look overall at our primary benchmark, or this might be a great place to zero in on those corporate competitors and understand by name what accounts are booking into our hotel and what accounts are booking into our target corporate competitors. We have 230,000 named corporate accounts. So really powerful competitive advantage for your team to have this over your competitors. Let's show you some filtering features here. And then as we get into some of the details, we're able to click in, see all of the specific metrics for that account, in addition to what type of business this was. So this was $300,000 in group. And we're also able to see IATA or travel agency information, right? So very, very similar to tools that you or your team may have used in other hotels. So we're able to see all of those IATAs that are booking Accenture business into either our hotel or to our competitors, including seeing the contact information for the phone number here for that particular account, right? So our goal is to help you take action from our insights when we're thinking about profitability. And quickly, just to note, again, we have what I would consider white glove training. We take you through each step of the learning process. We have an online training academy that is self-paced. And we also have, of course, the in-application help center that can help you remember how we define industry terms and how things are calculated specific for Kalibri when we're looking at profit mix and things like that. So Hummingbird Commercial offers a lot of data that you might have encountered in other tools. Again, whether that's Amadeus TravelClick or Star, there are a lot of new data points that we want to help walk you through so that you're understanding the overall profit opportunity for your hotel. And there are, of course, lots of opportunities for us to work together and understand that overall deep dive. So as we wrap up here, let's connect the dots a little bit, right? So using the tool as a member, again, you're going to be eligible for a discount. We're really excited to work with all of you on that. So if we connect the dots here for commercial performance to asset value more specifically, we saw earlier, again, top of the call, 43% of all submarkets. So 43% of our 975 submarkets are flat or negative. The only way to grow asset value in 2026 is going to be by improving your revenue capture. So this is where it gets real. When we're overspending even by $100,000, I know that sounds like a huge amount of money because it is, we can impact our asset value by over $1 million. So if we flip that, and we'll walk through an example here, we could add almost $2 million to our asset value. So that's going to be the power of managing your most profitable mix. And here's what that looks like in practice. So let's say we have a hotel, $5 million in guest paid revenue. Our revenue captures 80%. That's going to give us a net revenue of $4 million. Our operating costs, conservatively, $3.4 million. That's going to give us an NOI of $600,000. Using our standard example of an 8 cap here, that's going to give us an asset value of $7.5 million. Okay. So things are getting tougher by the day. We're just going to be thinking old school heads and beds. Let's not care too much about our business mix. Same $5 million in guest paid revenue. We just are staying flat, but we're spending more to capture that business. So now our revenue capture is 78%. We have $3.9 million in net revenue, same operating costs because we're still flat in guest paid revenue, $5 million. So all of a sudden, we're down 2% in revenue capture. Our net revenue is down $100,000, but when we calculate our asset value, we're looking at a $1.25 million drop in asset value. Maybe we didn't care, maybe we got complacent, but at the end of the day, if you have a tool that can show you how to ensure you're not dropping from 80 to 78%, you could maybe look like this instead. So same situation, $5 million in guest paid revenue. We're going to go from 80% to 83%. We're using Hummingbird Commercial. We're effective. We're focusing on that more profitable revenue. And our net revenue and NOI is going to increase by $50,000. So we're going to go from 100 to 150,000. And our asset value is going to grow to 1,875,000. So if you're imagining that your hotel or a hotel you're considering purchasing has $500,000 in NOI, every $25,000 we're losing in revenue capture is over $300,000 in asset value. Every $25,000 we lose in revenue capture is over $300,000 in asset value. We really want to help you improve cash flow, profitability. So again, just as we wrap up here, the member benefit for Hummingbird Commercial specifically is a 5% discount for 12-month subscription. If you agree to 2 years, so you get in, you get settled, it's going to be a 10% discount. And if you subscribe by November 14th, you're going to have 14 months for the price of 12. Our scale, your scale is so powerful, right? Kalibri has thousands of hotels on the platform. We work with all of the major third-party management companies. And you, of course, have the most power as the largest ownership group in the country. So we can really focus on making profitability and profit first the industry standard. So we want to help improve the health of the industry. That is our goal, so that we keep making investments, we're offering jobs, we're building in our communities. So as we think about our platform, again, it's driven by the largest US hotel performance database. We have our data, and then we have the profit mix calculation. We have our forecast, and lots of ways that we can point you to that overall more profitable opportunity. And if you are considering investing, which we always, of course, hope that you are, and continuing to build out your portfolio, next week on the 4th, which is the link that Sean dropped in the chat for us, we're going to focus a little bit on our partnership. Again, just kind of revisit that for any folks who are new, but I promise to make that quick. And then we're going to do a deep dive into our Hummingbird market tool. So this is a great alternative to CoStar if you are using those tools for underwriting or trend analysis.
I want to thank Jennifer Hill from Kalibri for joining us today. With that said, on behalf of your friends here at AAHOA, thank you so much for joining. And we want to thank Jennifer one more time.
Thank you so much.
Of course.